Good afternoon, E-Town. Scott Bramley here. I have the honor and privilege to serve as one of the associate principals at ETHS, and I'm also a member of our Wildcat family. Coming to you today at the end of the first week. Congratulations! We did it. We made it through the first week of classes, and I just wanted to reach out and say thank you to everybody. I want to thank the ETHS family. We have staff in the building supporting students through the registration process, through materials distribution, etc. There are several staff members of our family who are in the building working daily to make sure that our students get what they need and that everybody has what they need. So thank you very much to everybody who's been involved in those efforts. I want to also thank our classroom staff, teachers, and paraprofessionals for everything that they've been doing. Community building, creating community, welcoming students back virtually, our student services staff for supporting our students' needs and responding to those needs, and to all of our staff who are all making it their number one priority to start the school year excitedly and to welcome our students back and to just have a wonderful experience for everybody. So I'm coming to you today, Friday, end of the first week. I did this remote learning rundown last year. Try to keep it brief today. I just wanted to share a couple thoughts with everybody at the end of the week. So this is season 2, episode 1. Thank you to everybody. And I want to send a special shout out to our EdTech team. They have been phenomenal this summer, working tirelessly to make sure that we are all set up for our remote learning this fall. This week has been especially taxing on the EdTech team, helping all of us be able to do our jobs to support our community. So thank you to Melanie, Mina, Jessica, and David, as well as the entire IIT department. In addition to the EdTech instructional tech side, the entire IIT department has just been fantastic, and we owe them so much thanks. So thank you for everything that you're doing. Well, I know that we're all juggling a lot these days, and we all need support in various ways. And one of the things that I wanted to do in preparation for this school year was I wanted to engage in an online class. I wanted to put myself in the position of our students. What would they be experiencing? How would they be experiencing this year? And so I signed up for a class, take an online class. And I've had online classes before in my graduate career, but I wanted to do it this summer and specifically focus on social emotional learning. So ways to build community, how to integrate social emotional learning skills into the classroom. And so I asked Ty Kinsey to join me on this journey, and she and I participated in a 6-week social emotional learning online classroom community session virtually. And I have to be honest, I was skeptical at first. I did not think that you'd be able to build community online necessarily. I thought it would be a challenge, and of course it is. But I was pleasantly surprised. It can be done. So by the second week of that class, I felt connected to those former strangers. I was more and more vulnerable each week. I shared more of myself every week, and I even reached out beyond the class sessions to some of the participants just to check in on their reopening plans and some of the other concerns that they had raised through the class. And so I got to be honest, I actually started looking forward to those Tuesday evenings where I could step away from everything else for 2 hours and just be present with a group of people who were in the same position, all trying to figure out how can I improve my skills so that I can be available to the people I serve and help them through this same process. So here's some of my key takeaways, lessons that I've learned throughout this process. And so I think routines and structures are just so important. There's a lot of research about holistic well-being and how, humans thrive on routine and structure and clarity of purpose and understanding what's happening. And wow, this is not a time where that there's been a lot of that. During this pandemic, it's been extremely difficult to have clarity, to have clear communication, to just have solid footing, to know what to expect. And so, as much as we can provide routine and structure for our students, I think they will thrive off of that. I know that I do, and I did this summer in this class. Another thing was just intentional planning. So just, really thinking about, how do I build community? How do I ensure that the time I have with my students, the time I have with the people in my department, with whomever we're sharing time in this virtual platform, how am I intentional about ensuring that there's time allocated to connect, that it's not just getting down to business on the content or the meeting or the problem solving that has to happen, but there's also time intentionally built in to build community, to connect with each other, to have some interactions that foster community. And so that was one of the things that I really took away from the session. Every session included time for mindfulness, an opportunity to kind of shed the stress of the day and try to be present. In addition to that, we had clear co-constructed protocols. So as several of you have been engaging in democratic classrooms, and how do you engage students to feel like they own the classroom experience, that they have a sense of ownership, that this isn't schooling being done to them, but with them. The same thing is just so important for this virtual platform. So how do we come together in a community of learners to recognize how we're going to interact in this space, how we're going to use the tools available to us, what don't we have available anymore, and what do we have, what can we capitalize on that maybe we didn't have before, and how are we going to use that to further our goals. So it's just super important to make sure that that's clear. Some of the things that we engaged in, which was super helpful, is we knew which activities required us to have our camera on and which activities required us to have our cameras off. And there was a mixture of those activities, which I think is important, having a balance of different ways to interact and connect. We knew when we'd have to talk, speak and be verbal in our engagement, and when we could do that through the chat features or the polling features of Zoom, when we could be nonverbal and still communicate and engage. And again, having a variety of activities that allow for all those modalities, super important. And so we also talked about, when to take a screen break, when an activity would be pen and paper, off the camera, and then we come back and re-engage, when we'd be in breakout rooms versus whole class, and having a variety of those experiences throughout the 2 hours. So those were all very helpful, and I think were ways that we were able to build community because I wasn't worried about how I had to engage. I could focus on what I wanted to say and how I wanted to contribute, as opposed to worrying about, what was the methodology. And so being clear on that, I think, was super helpful. And having it be clearly communicated is one thing, but then also allowing for differentiation and accommodation. And so if I wasn't able to have my camera on for a moment, or if I, didn't feel comfortable sharing verbally, I didn't want to talk in that moment. I could put my answer in the chat, even though the norm was to speak. And so I think those accommodations and those abilities to differentiate, things we're very accustomed to in person, are just even more highlighted in the virtual platform. Another thing that I really took away was the concept of community, connection, and communication. And these are going to be my parting words today. Thank you for your time. But I just think it's so important to remember that these are pieces that allow us to thrive. I've worked in other schools and I've worked in other industries before education. And people always, ask me about my experiences at ETHS. And my answer is always that my worst day at ETHS, like I'm having the worst day possible, is still better than my best day at the other school I worked at and in some of the other corporations that I worked for. And it's so true because of the community and the people. The people at ETHS, our students, my colleagues, everybody who's just so caring and committed to everybody's success and well-being. That's what makes this a great community. That's what makes it a family. And we're missing that. I'm missing that. I don't get to just pop into people's classrooms and say hi. And, the first week of classes, I'd be in first year teachers' classrooms, just popping in, leaving them a note card in their mailbox afterward, just saying hello and thanking them for what they were doing to build community. I can't do that. We're not passing each other in the H hallway. It's a challenge for sure. And I'm feeling it. And so I think we need to just remember that there are still ways to connect. There are still ways to be in community online. And, as much as we can try to capitalize on that, I think it's super important. And so, when we have community, when we work in community, when we can connect with each other, support each other, and when our communication is clear, and there's no such thing as over communicating. And I think that's certainly an area that I need to continue to grow in. Not always getting it right this summer and this spring, and certainly the beginning of the fall here, but working toward being better at continuously communicating and making sure that our communication is clear. So I want to thank everybody for your time today and for viewing this. We are Evan Strong. We are a community that supports each other, and I just want to offer up that there are several supports at ETHS. We have so many opportunities to get ideas and to share with each other. But I want to be one additional opportunity for you. So if you need anything, I'm available. If you want to talk through a lesson plan, I'm available. You want a thought partner, reach out. I think it's just so important that we use the resources we have, and our number one resource is each other. We are a fantastic school. We have the best faculty and staff, and we are going to do this the best and better than anybody else because of who we are and our abilities and our strength, which is in our community. So please lean on each other. Please reach out, ask questions, ask for clarity, seek to understand before being understood. And hopefully I will be talking to you in the coming days and having opportunities to interact with you and your students as this semester progresses. Thank you for your time today. We are Evan Strong, and go Kits.